How the hell do you lose a game that you're leading by 20 in the third quarter? You're leading by 24 in the first half. How the hell do you lose that game? And the 76ers found a way to lose that game. And they found a way to lose a game. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a great way to lose a game. If you're playing a basketball game and you want to lose it, don't make any shots. That's the best way to lose. Don't score any points. And the Sixers, in the final 4 minutes and 25 seconds of the game last night against Chicago Bulls, 4 minutes and 25 seconds, they did not score a point. They didn't make a field goal. I mean, they didn't make a field goal for the final 6 minutes and 25 seconds. But in the final 4:25, not only did they not make a field goal, they didn't make a foul shot. They didn't score a point, let alone many points that would have them secure a victory. The Sixers got blanked in over 4 minutes of basketball. That's hard to do. Hard to do. And they lost 113 to 111 to another Eastern Conference leading team in the Chicago Bulls. It was awful. The first half of that game looked like the 76ers were going to blow them out by 50. It looked like Tyrese Maxey was going to score 60 points, and it was his birthday, and he was red hot, and everything he threw up was going in. But I always urge people this, on this note. The Boston Celtics, like in the first quarter of their game against the Sixers most recently, the one the Sixers lost, unfortunately, with Quentin Grimes unable to handle the pressure of the final moment of a game. So, let's go right back to him in the next game. Anyway, we'll get back to that. The Sixers against the Celtics. Celtics shot 61% from the floor in the first quarter. When that happens and the Sixers aren't getting their doors blown off, I'm like, this is actually a win because they're shooting so well. They're only down, whatever it was, 8 or 9, whatever. So then this game rolls around, and the Sixers in the first quarter shot 71% from 3. I thought, all right, well, that's not going to end that way. They're not going to shoot 71% for the game. But, hell, they're really building the lead. The end of that first quarter, they're up 45-27. Most points they've scored in any quarter so far this young season. Then I'm like, all right, they got this. They don't have to shoot 71% for the rest of the game from 3. They can just go out there and do okay, do their season averages, and they'll be just fine. Well, that didn't work out so well because of that second half collapse. And they were allowing little 7 runs here, 7-0 runs here, 7-0 runs there, 14-2 runs at one point. Like, okay, that 14-2 run, that raises my eyebrows. And then at the end of the game, they decide to go to Quentin Grimes. And by they, I mean Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse was, what's the word for it? Ass. He was ass last night, especially in the third quarter. He had 3 turnovers in that third quarter that led to 7 points directly down the other end. Good times, thanks. And also was 0 for 4 before missing the final shot of the game from 3, which would have won it. They got a look, which is good, but it being in his hands and not Tyrese Maxey's hands at the end of that game. In fact, Tyrese Maxey literally being the farthest 76er from the basketball. That's troublesome. And he clanked it. Quentin Grimes clanked it. And Nick Vucevic, who, if you remember from Sixers fame briefly, traded in the Bynum deal, I believe it was, with Mo Harkless. Andre Iguodala got moved as well. He knocks down the game-winning shot from the corner when Joel Embiid abandoned him in the corner there, collapsed on Josh Giddey, a driving Josh Giddey, who baited him and then kicked it out. And that was that. This was an awful, horrendously terrible loss by the 76ers last night. So let's talk about something a little bit better. Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman addressed the media yesterday, spoke to the media for about 21 minutes, answered questions about the trade deadline. As you would assume, acquiring Jalen Phillips in the final year of his deal. Of course, they're interested in extending that, but they're going to see how it plays out. Spoke highly of Michael Carter and the options that they give him. the options that he gives the Eagles as far as what to do. Marcus Epps on IR. It does, now Howie didn't say this, but just in terms of the options, it does maybe hint at the idea of Carter playing a little safety, maybe Cooper DeJean playing a little safety. The backup's gone. Hopefully Drew Makuba just continues to get better as the season goes on. Hopefully he has a nice little reset in the middle of the season. Hopefully the bye week in the middle of the year prevents any type of rookie wall that might happen. But the main talk was about Jalen Phillips and also a question about A.J. Brown, who, if you've been watching this show and listening to this show, you know I am 1,000% opposed to trading. I really like A.J. Brown. And as a guy who has defended A.J. Brown more than most, funny, the one thing I didn't like from A.J. Brown was the book on the sidelines. But that wasn't even an A.J. Brown thing. And that ended up being the most beloved thing about A.J. last year by most people. It was the one thing I didn't like. But that's just because I don't like anybody doing anything on the sidelines that's not football. But anyway, I digress. I still feel like I've defended the man more than most. I ain't trading him. He's making it really hard to defend him this year. Don't get me wrong. Social media galore. But I ain't trading him. And Howie Roseman made the perfect point as to why you don't trade a guy like that. Now, I don't know how far, if any, trade talks actually happened. All the rumors were swirling around about how the Eagles were mentioning him in trade talks, or teams were calling about him, and the Eagles, might be interested in trading him, if the right thing comes along. Well, if the right thing comes along, a lot of people become available if the right thing comes along. But the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown this year, and forget about even the cap implications. I know people always jump to that. Forget about that. Forget about like $51 million of dead cap. Forget about that. Let's just talk about it from a football perspective and not a numbers and money perspective, okay? He's still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. You want to trade that guy? Because your run game isn't exactly flourishing. And I know they did in the game that AJ didn't play in. I know that. But it was also against the Giants, who are cheeks, okay? I'm not going to base the rest of the season off of one game against the Giants at home heading into their bye week when they lost, unfortunately, their rookie running back in Cam Scatterville. So I'm going to go ahead and frown upon the idea of trading A.J. Brown. I don't even want him traded in the offseason. Might happen, but I don't even want him traded then. And Howie talked about that yesterday, about very simply how if you want to be great, you don't trade great players. Let's hear from Howie on that. And then he also got into more details on the Brandon Graham scenario, because we've heard Brandon Graham's side of the story here. Didn't even really want to retire. It was just kind of the way the Eagles roster was going, and Eagles need to save money kind of thing. And now midway through the season, Howie decided to give Brandon Graham a call, his first draft pick, and say, hey, we're in the market for an edge rusher. I heard you've been working out. How you doing? Well, let's hear Howie tell the story of how Brandon Graham rejoined this team. Now that the trade deadline is come and gone, we'll talk about some other trades that happened in the NFL. The Jets have now like everybody's first round pick. That's pretty incredible. But we'll get into that a little bit. We'll also get into the idea of how much better this team has been, how much better this team should be really in the second half of the season. The number one thing I look at is obviously Jalen Phillips. I absolutely love this pickup. Third round pick, I know it's not nothing, certainly, but it's well worth it to make you a better defense, especially when you haven't been able to get after the quarterback, and Jalen Phillips can get after the quarterback. You haven't been able to stop the run, and Jalen Phillips can certainly stop the run. I was looking at highlights of him against the Baltimore Ravens. You see him just constantly in pursuit of the quarterback. And what he has been able to do, and really not even just the quarterback, but after a running back as well, he doesn't give up on running plays. They're run to the other side of the line of scrimmage. Guess who tries to get to the other side of the line of scrimmage? He doesn't just sit there and go, oh, not my guy. Nope. He keeps on playing. I think he's going to be absolutely loved in Philadelphia. And I said that yesterday. We talked about the injury at UCLA. He shut it down for a couple of years, came back with a vengeance, became a first-round pick of the Miami Dolphins. Put a couple of good years together. One of those years, unfortunately, cut short due to injury, but one of those years under Vic Fangio, 6.5 sacks. Pretty impressive for a guy that only played in, I always forget the number, 9 games this year. Do I still have it? I still have it there. 8 games under Vic Fangio in 2023 with 6.5 sacks. Not too shabby. Also, 7 tackles for loss in that time and 11 quarterback hits. yeah, I'm kind of happy that he's back under Vic Fangio. And as I predicted yesterday when talking about Howie Roseman and that conversation between him and Vic Fangio, when Fangio said that his influence on trade deadline acquisitions or moves are influenced in a minuscule fashion. Well, Howie, it was like, yeah, no, we have conversations. Like we talk. We talk. Nice of Vic to say that, but we definitely talk. You're Philadelphia. Oh, so we're getting everything there with the Eagles. And your Philadelphia Flyers. Oh, my goodness gracious. Up 3-0, 3-1. Down 4-3. Force overtime. Force a shootout. They win the game. It's almost too easy. But let's start it out with the Philadelphia Eagles, and let's start it out with Howie Roseman on these acquisitions, particularly Jalen Phillips.
All these guys, the process starts with college, and we spent a lot of time with him coming out of college, knowing the person. It's really easy to scout the player. Really, he's got freak ability. He can rush. He can set the edge. He can play in space. He's got a nonstop motor. I think one of the most fun things to do is put on his tape and watch his effort, And when you have the athleticism and the physical ability he has with the effort he has, and then, just going and seeing that he was Walter Payton Man of the Year in Miami, the things that he does in the community, he comes from an unbelievable family. And then obviously Vic was with him, So a lot of times when you're talking to your coaches and you have a vision of how the player is going to fit, you have to have those discussions. But that discussion was really easy with Coach Fangio.
What a good guy he is, Walter Payton Man of the Year. Also, cat guy. As of 2 years ago, he had a cat named Mister. For you cat people out there. Yeah, cat. That's adorable. I know that because of in-season Hard Knocks on HBO, which I know I've referenced a bunch when it comes to Vic Fangio. But I can't tell you enough how much I love this pick. I talked about how you look at the Miami Dolphins defensive line, and you don't have a Jalen Carter in the middle of that defensive line. You don't have a Moro Ajomo. And I did not expect to mention Moro Ajomo and talking about how good a defensive line was going to be this year. But Moro Ajomo has played very well. He and Jalen Carter have the same percentage of battles won at the line of scrimmage. That's pretty good in pass rushing situations. And Jalen Phillips is being added to that defensive line. Nolan Smith yesterday, when I mentioned earlier about how much better this team could be in the second half of the season after the trade deadline and after the bye week, Nolan Smith's practice window gets opened up for the Eagles, and there's a chance he plays Monday against the Green Bay Packers Monday night at Lambeau Field. That's pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited about that. So Nolan Smith being back, Jalen Phillips being on this team, Brandon Graham coming back, Jalix Hunt continuing to take steps in the right direction in his sophomore season. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of what's going on here. Kind of like the idea. Also, Cooper DeJean. If you remember after the bye week last year, everyone always wants to talk about, they really started committed to the run with Saquon Barkley. And yeah, that's true. But the biggest difference from the bye week previous to the bye week and then following the bye week was the addition of Cooper DeJean to the secondary. He took over for Avonte Maddox in the slot. He took over the nickel spot. And he went on to just be dominant, as we all know now. Maybe he's going to have another great post-bye week run here where it really changes the success of the Eagles defense by being more on the outside and having Michael Carter on the inside. Things could look a lot different, defensively speaking, for Vic Fangio in the second half of the season with the shuffling of the deck that has taken place. So I like all this. I think the Eagles are in a really good spot. The other thing is Eagles coaches on the staff here have worked with a lot of these guys over the years. Christian Parker, their defensive backs coach, worked with Jair Alexander in Green Bay. They've worked together. Obviously, the Eagles knew Michael Carter II from Joe Douglas's time, drafting him as a member of the New York Jets, as the GM of the New York Jets, and Vic Fangio with Jalen Phillips. They know these guys well. So I don't know if it's just all of a sudden going to be anything that clicks into place for Jair Alexander. I've said before, I like that he's a veteran player. I like that he's had some success, obviously, in his career, being one of the top cornerbacks in the league. But you got to explain to me how the hell it's possible you could be good and still be inactive for 5 games in Baltimore. You still got it, but you're inactive for 5 games. Either way, I'd rather have him than, like Adoree Jackson, for instance. I'd rather have him than Adoree Jackson. And Howie, when he was asked about this yesterday, he talked about depth. You have to have depth at the cornerback position. The Eagles right now certainly have that. As far as trading A.J. Brown, again, something I was very much against. I'm still against. I don't want to see him traded. Yes, as more often than not, an A.J. Brown defender. He's made it pretty hard this year. Pretty hard this year to defend A.J. Brown. He's made it pretty hard to defend him. But yesterday, Tim McManus of ESPN asked Howie Roseman the question about, hey, A.J. Brown's still here. More or less, how close did it come to moving on from your number 1 wide receiver?
Tim, I think that when you're trying to be a great team, it's hard to trade great players. And A.J. Brown's a great player. He wears the C for a reason. He's an important part of this team, of this organization. He cares about winning. He cares about his teammates. And I think that when you're a team like ours that is looking forward to an opportunity to compete for a championship, you just don't get rid of the guys like that. And so feel very lucky to have him on our team and excited about the second half of the season with him.
I've never been the guy to jump to A.J. Brown as like T.O. I know a lot of people did that in A.J. Brown's first year here in terms of production, in terms of talent. T.O. is the greatest wide receiver I've ever seen put on an Eagles jersey, and I know it was brief. And I know he only played a season and a half, kind of, because his first season was 12 games, and then his second season was 7. And somehow, despite that, in those 2 seasons, in 04 and 05, he still led the Eagles in receiving. So that's pretty special. Especially when you miss the amount of games he did over the course of those 2 years. But A.J. Brown is pretty damn good. Still one of the best in the game. But I'm not going to put him in the T.O. category yet. When you talk about more successful Eagles career, sure. Yeah, obviously A.J. Brown. But when you talk about comparing him between the ears to Terrell Owens, I ain't going to go there. It felt like T.O. would argue for himself, where it feels like A.J. Brown does arguing for others and himself. A perfect example of that is that Minnesota game, 2 years ago, where you have A.J. Brown on the sidelines, and it looks like he's, upset with Jalen Hurts, and everyone's talking, it's got to be about targets. It's got to be about targets. It wasn't about targets. It was about spreading the ball around. It was about finding open guys. Not just him, but finding open guys. That's what it was about. He is taken up for that. And I've mentioned this before. After the ice out of the media 2 seasons ago, when he had nothing nice to say, so he didn't say it, he died. Devontae Smith was catching strays, man. He was like, I don't really argue and complain about targets. He's like, Smitty complains more about targets than I do, but nobody's in his locker. I was like, damn, man, you just outed your boy? Come on. But I believe him. I do believe him. And there was also a time here where Jalen Hurts deferred to A.J. Brown to be more of the vocal guy in the room. Because A.J. is not afraid of confrontation when it comes to what's going on in the walls, between the walls of the NovaCare complex. He might not tell the media what the problem is, but he'll tell the media there's a problem, which is something I have a problem with. Just don't light a fire and then be pissed off that there's smoke, man. So I am not trading A.J. Brown. I don't put him in the T.O. category in either talent or drama. But here's one thing. This social media stuff, it's not even just the social media stuff. It's the hinting at a problem without acknowledging the problem publicly that I have a problem with. Because it is a distraction. When your quarterback's getting asked about it, that's distraction. When people think that the locker room can blow up at any moment, yeah, that's a problem. And I know a lot of this is carryover from people of my generation and beyond that were scarred by the whole T.O. thing. How great, this was so fantastic. You waited so long for this number 1 wide receiver. He's finally here. You go to the Super Bowl, the greatest year you've ever had. And then it's gone. A puff of smoke. Gone. If we could do without the drama in the second half of the season, it was on my wish list last week. Things I wanted to see from the Philadelphia Eagles after the bye week. It was on my wish list. Let's hope that I get that wish. All right, some insight on the Brandon Graham rejoining the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman takes you through the whole process.
Yeah, I know when we talked in August, I think it was in August, even though it seems like a lifetime ago, I kind of joked that, we weren't fully ready to hand over the keys. And that was because it felt like there was still meat on the bone in terms of trying to acquire players and understanding the resources that we had in terms of draft picks to possibly do that. And before the season started, before we went down any path, I called BG. Fortunate really to have special relationships with a bunch of guys here, and BG was my first pick. And so just reached out and said, hey, we're in the market for an edge rusher. How are you feeling? And at the time, he just felt like that wasn't the right timing for him. Hadn't really contemplated, was doing a bunch of other things. But apparently got his mind started moving a little bit, and he started working out a little bit harder. And when Z retired, picked up the phone again and just said, hey, I'm just reaching out again. I had heard a little bit through the grapevine you were working out a little bit harder. And, I got that little BG cackle. Is it a cackle when they laugh like that, Bob? Is that a cackle? I don't know. I've never used that word before. What'd you say? Like Troy? Oh, yeah, Troy. Troy does laugh like that. And that kind of gave me a sense that, he wanted to come back.
Cackle. Is that what it is? Because we all know BG's laugh. Well, these are audio examples. No. Form of laughter, often an evil laughter. Yeah, I want to say that's BG. Maybe a guffaw, maybe a bit of a guffaw, like it's meant to be somewhat jovial, not evil. I don't know. These are the things I think about. Anyway, that just kind of followed the bouncing ball as to how Brandon Graham got back here. Now, I just talked about a second ago here how much better this team could be in the second half of the season with the additions made to the defense. Brandon Graham is certainly in that category. But as I said, when he unretired, and I'll reiterate now, I'm not looking at him to be some savior. I'm not looking at Brandon Graham to come here and get like 5 sacks between now, 6 sacks, 10 sacks between now and the end of the season. I think that's ridiculous. But as far as leadership in the locker room, driving home points for the coach, and still playing at something close to a high level, because let's not forget the numbers weren't all there last year for Brandon Graham in terms of, sacks and tackles for loss and all that. But that man was making plays last year in this defense, and it was his first year in the Vic Fangio defense. So maybe Vic Fangio just knows, and it's going to take time. You got to get back into football shape, as we all know. That's not just some cliche. That's a true thing. There's, being in shape in the gym, and then there's being in shape playing the game. And BG's got to play to get into the swing of things with that. That's why I was a little surprised he wasn't active against the Giants to get that under his belt before the bye week. So now he's going to get it under his belt here against the Green Bay Packers. Because I in no way, shape, or form think they brought him back to be like a Kyle Lowry for, what I mean? But love that he's back. If he plays anything close to where he was playing at last year, I think the sky could be the limit for what this defense could do in the second half of the season. The big turnaround in run defense, big turnaround in getting after the quarterback with sacks and QB hits and hurries and pressures and all that. I think it could be a big turnaround for this Eagles team because of BG, Jalen Phillips, Nolan Smith being healthy, and hopefully Jalen Carter just continuing to do his thing on the defensive end. Should be at the defensive tackle position. Your Philadelphia 76ers. Good God, that was terrible last night. Oh, whoa. Before I get to the Sixers. Ugh. Just looking at some trades from yesterday. Good Lord, New York Jets. First off, Sauce Gardner goes to the Indianapolis Colts. The Jets get, this is going to be a running theme, a first-round pick in 2026, this upcoming draft. First-round pick in 2027, next year's draft. And they also get Donnie Mitchell. So that's nice little haul there for the Jets. And the Colts, I guess Jerry wasn't lying when something teed up, or maybe he just scrambled and said, I said I was going to get something. My Jerry Jones is too Dr. Phil-ish. I gotta work on that. But Quentin Williams goes to the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for a second-round pick this year and a first-round pick next year, as well as Mozzie Smith. How about that? Elsewhere, the need for Rashid Shaheed Speed. He goes to the Seattle Seahawks, another top team in the NFC. That one raised my eyebrows. Jacoby Myers goes from the Raiders to the Jaguars. And that New York Jets team that I mentioned, 2 first-round picks coming up in this year's draft, along with 2 second-round picks in this year's draft. Next year, 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick. That's what the New York Jets worked out for themselves yesterday. Quentin Williams, I've always felt like is a top-tier defensive tackle. So the Dallas Cowboys, hey, good for them. But here's the thing. Because Quentin Williams is a Dallas Cowboy now, scientifically speaking, he sucks. Sorry, that's the way that goes.
Take away the scoreboard.
Thank you. Now Green Bay Packer, Micah Parsons. Your Philadelphia 76ers last night. 24-point lead in the first half. Second quarter, 24-point lead. 45-27 at the end of the first quarter. Most points they've scored in a quarter at any point this season. If you watched that fourth quarter, if you watched the final 5 minutes and 39 seconds of that fourth quarter, where Joel Embiid checked back into the game, the Sixers have lost both games that Joel Embiid is on the floor to try and help close out. It's a very different style of basketball. And to try to close this game out, when Joel Embiid checked back in at the 5:39 mark of the fourth quarter, the Sixers were a 2-man show. And it was terrible. I explained to you guys yesterday that Joel Embiid right now is in a great spot. Like, just ISOing him for a second and just, I didn't expect him to play in the beginning of the season, let alone be ready for the opener. I didn't expect him to play and also be a guy that could get you 20 points. I didn't expect that this early in the season. So, and I certainly, if he was going to play, I wouldn't have expected him to be in anything close to the shape to play 20 minutes, 23 minutes, 25, 26 minutes, as he has over the last couple of games here. With that being said, I don't want him in the game. If you're trying to win basketball games and Joel Embiid still is in ramp-up mode, forget about it. Look, love the guy. Want him to be here for 4 more years and play at a high level, but this right now ain't it. He can't be on the floor to try to close out a game. That is not your best brand of basketball, trying to play a 2-man game to close out a game with him and Tyrese Maxey. Now, Maxey airball with 11 seconds left. He scored, he knocked out a jumper with about 6:25 left in the game. Hold on, I actually wrote it down. 6:26 left in the game. He knocked down a jumper, made it a 109-100 76ers lead. 6:26 left. So the Sixers go about another minute, a little less than a minute before Joel Embiid checks in. Still didn't score a point in that span. Then at 4:26, Tyrese Maxey knocks down 2 free throws. Those would be the last points of the game. Maxey looked off. Joel Embiid looked terrible. Terrible decisions on the floor. Quentin Grimes had a bad decision on the floor as well, where he had a shot at the top of the key. Now, at that point, he was 0 for 4 from 3. So instead of letting it rip with about 3 seconds left on the shot clock, he tossed it over to Joel Embiid, who just threw up a prayer. So Grimes kind of put him in a bad spot. But a turnaround jumper with about 3 seconds left on the clock off one leg, top of the key. I say jumper. It was a 3. It would have went down as a 3. He missed that one. That clanks off. And still, the Sixers can't score a point the rest of the way. Joel Embiid, I don't think, is at the point. Joel Embiid is not at the point yet this season where he can be on the floor to try to close out a game. Is it all his fault? No. Nick Nurse, I understand you're trying to, manage feelings here, but this ain't it, man. This ain't the time. VJ Edgecombe, essentially, I don't even know where he goes when Joel Embiid is on the court. Is he even still out there? Does he just take a seat with the fans? I don't know. But watching the Sixers try to close this game out after letting the Chicago Bulls back into the game with little 7-0 runs here. I think they had 2 7-0 runs in the second half. They had like a 14-2 run or something like that in the fourth quarter. Excuse me. Third quarter, they had a 16-4 run. And they actually make it close by winning the third quarter 28-20. They actually make it an 11-point game. This is, again, after the Sixers were up 24 points in the first half. Then the Sixers try to get something going. They got VJ Edgecombe, Jared McCain, who didn't score a point, by the way, last night in his return. Kelly Oubre, Quentin Grimes, and Adem Bona to start out the fourth quarter. VJ Edgecombe knocks down a little floater to start things off in that fourth quarter to get the Sixers going in the right direction. Kelly Oubre gets a dunk, 101-18. You're reestablishing order. Then, unfortunately, down the other end, Smith knocks down a three for the Bulls. And then in comes Tyrese Maxey to try to regulate. He gets an N1 situation, the old three-point play, makes it a 104-93 game. Maxey knocks down a technical foul, makes it 105-95. Grimes has his third bad pass of the second half that results in a three down the other way. And then the run was on. The run was on for the Chicago Bulls. Bottom line to me is Joel Embiid is not in a position right now to be out there closing games. If he's still in ramp up, get me in shape mode, then I'm not putting him out. I don't care if he hadn't played in the fourth quarter yet. I'll play him in the start of the quarter. I mean, he still could score for you at least. But Nick Vucevic was taking him off the dribble last night. He abandoned Nick Vucevic in the corner to collapse on Josh Giddey. Then he ends up colliding with Kelly Oubre. That leaves Quentin Grimes to rotate defensively to try to get in the face of Nick Vucevic. He only needs about 6 more inches to attempt to do that. And Vucevic knocked down the corner three. Gives the Bulls their first lead of the game with 3.2 seconds left on the clock. And then, so I'm going to need some help figuring this one out here. Tyrese Maxey's healthy. Tyrese Maxey's on the court. And Nick Nurse draws up a play for Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes, down the stretch there against the Boston Celtics, really came up small in a big moment where the play wasn't for him, but the play ended up in his hands against the Celtics, where he looked terrified to have the basketball. He ended up dishing to Joel Embiid at the wing in the perimeter to attempt a three-point shot, and he clanked it off the road. Didn't get the shot off. Quentin Grimes took too much time with the ball and gave it to Embiid late. Embiid got the shot off, or couldn't get the shot off, and that was a wrap. So after that moment of Quentin Grimes looking terrified, Nick Nurse said, I have an idea. Let's go to Quentin Grimes here at the end of the game with the game on the line. And he put Tyrese Maxey farthest away from the basketball. He was still in the backcourt. Whenever I see Tyrese Maxey line up in the backcourt, I'm thinking, okay, here comes the sprint, go route, essentially. He runs a seam down the middle of the court, and they try to get a 2, and they take it to overtime. No, and I'm glad that they had a play that was drawn up for a 3. I will say that, because the Sixers were going to get cooked in overtime. They looked like they were dead. But Nick Nurse decides to go to Quentin Grimes on that play, who was 0 for 4 on the night, had a terrible second half, and looked terrible trying to win a game for the Sixers when the ball was in his hands to end it against the Celtics. Yeah, not what I would have done in that situation, but that's what Nick Nurse drew up, and they got what they wanted, and Quentin Grimes hit it. I will say this also. If Quentin Grimes hits that shot and the Sixers win at the buzzer, I still don't like the play. I love that it worked out, but that's where we're arguing result versus philosophy. Can't argue with the result. They won. In this case, they lost. So I hate both things. I hate the play, and I hate that they lost. At least I would have had the comforting fact of them winning and improving to 6-1 in the season instead of the Chicago Bulls doing that and being the top team in the Eastern Conference. Also, in last night's game, worth pointing out. By the way, this is the first game of a back-to-back they played tonight at 7 o'clock in Cleveland against the Cavaliers. That won't be easy. Last night, it looked like they had played 5 games in a row. And that was coming off a nice little break there, unfortunately. By the way, in last night's loss, Tyrese Maxey did have 39 points in 39 minutes. He had 5 assists, 4 turnovers. Quentin Grimes, 30 minutes played last night, 10 points, 0 for 5 from 3, 4 turnovers. Not a brag of a night there for your boy Quentin Grimes. Not a brag of the night. Maxey also, I feel like he had 3 blocks in last night's game. Embiid had 4. 7 o'clock tip-off. They try to bounce back tonight. Nick Nurse, after the game, did talk about what happened in that second half.
I think I probably want to start with some turnovers. I think we had 4 offensive fouls in the third quarter. Those are all turnovers, couple moving screens, couple charges, couple bad passes. I didn't think, again, we got a ton in transition and in the open floor in the first half, and we didn't get much of that at all in the second. I think that ground us down just a little bit. And then obviously the last stretch of the game, we, just didn't make any plays, make any shots.
Yeah, that tends to hurt. That 2-man game with Maxey and Embiid, that's not how this team is going to close out games in the near future. Those moments right now are beyond Joel Embiid's capabilities. Again, I'm thrilled that he's able to play right now. I'm thrilled that he's playing, and he has to play. He has to get in shape. That's the only way to go out there and play. 20 points is great. Blocks are great. Rebounds are great. Occasionally the assists, all that stuff last night, great. But everything else, getting in shape, trying to close out a game, not there yet. 6 rebounds last night for Embiid. He did have 3 turnovers, 3 steals as well, 2 assists is what Embiid had last night. You want to start him in the fourth quarter? Fine. You want to close him out in the fourth quarter? Nope. Not ready for that. And another season high for the third straight game of minutes played. 20 to 23 to 25 to 26 last night. Are we ramping up Joel Embiid, or are we saying he's the player he was throughout the majority of his career? Because he's certainly not that. Not yet. And I don't think he'll ever get back to that MVP status of being a perennial MVP candidate. I think that's over. But until he at least gets to, maybe this guy will make an all-star team. Until he gets to that point, I don't want him on the floor. It's not the Sixers' best option. The Sixers' best option is Tyrese Maxey running the show with VJ Edgecombe. Still Quentin Grimes, even though last night was rough. Dembona on the floor. Maybe Kelly Oubre as well. Even though Oubre got beat off the dribble there by Josh Giddey for that game-winning play that they ended up knocking down. But Embiid ain't ready for it yet. He's not healthy enough for it yet. He's not back to himself enough yet. So we'll see how the Sixers try to close it out tonight with no Joel Embiid on the floor. By the way, fourth quarter, the Bulls did take that one 29-16, outscoring the Sixers in that one. Your Philadelphia Flyers last night, how about them? What a battle. You want to talk about, now they were in Montreal last night playing against the Habs, so the people that went to that game certainly worth the price of admission if you go to a shootout, through overtime and a shootout. But get the 5-4 victory last night in the shootout against the Montreal Canadiens. Flyers were up 3-0 after the first period. Flyers were down 4-3 after the second period. Then in the third period, they're able to get they put one in there and tie it up. Force the overtime period. Nothing doing. Get to the shootout. And that's where they're able to take it. Bobby Brink, I think it was, came up with the oh no, was it Zegras? Yeah, Zegras came up with the winner. Hey, Gow. He's sick, by the way. That was the first goal he had, that turnaround to Cam York. That was gorgeous. Liking that. So the Flyers improved to 7-5-1 on the season. The Habs dropped to 9-3-1. It's a good hockey team that they picked up 2 points against last night for your Philadelphia Flyers. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARS, you get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARSY, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Second goal of the game, Cam York from Trevor Zegras. Not too shabby. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine Wednesday Wednesday morning. Started off here. Leave me alone. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Right. Happy Howie Day. Right. April. Hello, April. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? I feel like I was watching a Phillies playoff game during the last 5 minutes of the game last night for the Sixers. Can't do a damn thing. It was pretty terrible. The Tyrese Maxey air ball with 11 seconds left made me go, "Oh, they're not winning this game. They're not going to win this game. It's over. It's over." I was yelling at my TV to take Embiid out. He was too tired. All his shots were short. It was yes. I totally agree, Natalie. The other thing is, last night, Embiid just had bad decisions. He got a ball that was dumped down to him at the block. He's got a lane to the basket. A guy comes over to help. He instead stops, allowing Vucevic to come over to D him up. And then he ends up turning the ball over. And I believe after that play, that's when you had VJ Edge come down the other line, down the other end of the court, come up with the goaltending, defensive goaltending. So it led to 2 points the other way. Just a bad decision by Joel Embiid. And the middle portion of this game defensively, which is what I'm really looking at Joel Embiid for to see how he can improve defensively. He started out weak. Middle portion of the game, it looked like he came on a lot stronger. And then defensively came out stronger, and then ended it with a bad play. But offensively, just bad decisions. He had at least 2 more bounces when Quentin Grimes gave him the ball at the top of the key before he just hoisted up that one-leg fadeaway three-pointer. Also, he had some good looks, and he was just missing them. Those are the ones that you're talking about, Natalie, the short ones. That was pretty terrible. Oh, Sean, you dialed it up for me here. Eagles trade picks following the trade deadline 2026. 1 first, 1 second, 2 threes, including a comp, 2 fours, and 2 fives. There's the next one there. Not bad. Oh, Natalie is a cat person. I don't have cats, but my wife does. And yes, I live with my wife. While the cats just completely crush my lungs with asthma. That's a good time. They're nice, though. I don't have cats, but I have cat roommates, is what I like to say. Good Flyers competitive game last night. Hell yeah. Weighing the pain. Flyers fought back and won. 76ers fought early and fell asleep. Thanks for the improvements, Howie. There we go, weighing the pain. That pretty much sums up the day. Happy birthday, Tyrese Maxey. Hope you like blown leads. Ari! Go Birds. Up, everyone. Hope y'all are doing awesome. Hope you're doing awesome. Did McCain play at all? Yes, McCain did play. And it was not pretty, unfortunately, for Jared McCain. What was it? 15 minutes last night, no points for Jared McCain last night, unfortunately. Harrison Bader will become a free agent. Yes, no surprise there. Declined the mutual option for $10 million. Said thanks, but no thanks, so he thinks he can do better on the open market. Psyched, Howie did great. Didn't overspend. Just added some key pieces. I agree wholeheartedly. Cousin, what's up, cousin? How you doing? Think the window for the Phillies is just about closed. Schwarber headed out. Bader moving on, etc. I don't necessarily think either are moving out. I think there's still a good chance that Bader could be back here. And I also think there's a good chance that Schwarber stays here in Philadelphia. I think he wants to stay here in Philadelphia, but he also wants a boatload of money. I don't think he gets 5 years, by the way. I think that's absolutely bonkers. I think he gets like a 3-year deal at around $30 million per. And I'd do that. But I wouldn't do the 5 year. Really, it's not even the money. It's the years that I don't want the Phillies to have to be committed to. And Bader, I mean, he came over and he just was great. He was absolutely great. And it really sucks that he had the hamstring injury in the playoffs. It also sucks that, of course, Trey Turner had the hamstring injury at the end of the year, but was ready for the playoffs. And it also really sucks that Schwarber, Turner, Harper, 207 batting average in the postseason this year. Gross. Bader to the Cardinals, says resident Cardinals fan Ari. Thanks, Ari. I hope not. Here's what you got. Sixers tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs coming off a nice win there against the Atlanta Hawks. They are 4-3 on the season. They are 2-1 at home. Sixers 5-2 now on the season. They're going up against the Cavs tonight. Cavs, by the way, they're going into this at 9.5-point favorites. Holy Stromboli. Or 9.5-point underdog, excuse me. So how about that? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. No, yeah, 9.5-point favorites. I'm looking at this, right? That's insane. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. My name is Mark Farzetta. Have a great rest of your day. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Farzy Show. Locked On 76ers fans, me and Keith Pompey will be on live after the Sixers game tonight. So check that out on Locked On 76ers. Make sure you guys like and subscribe there. Also, later in the week, Locked On Eagles Squad Show. Me, Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, Louis DiBiase on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Make sure you guys catch that. Noon tomorrow. We'll be going live. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. My name is Mark Farzetta. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. And I'll see you guys after the Sixers game tonight on Locked On 76ers. See you.